It is not transphobic to not be attracted to trans people. No one should ever be coerced, shamed, or forced into sexual relations for whatever reason, and this is why I stand with lesbians. So welcome back to the channel today, everyone. So recently this notion that it's somehow transphobic to not want to date trans people is starting to come back to light, and it's coming back in a big way. So this notion has been used against women to create sexual harassment, and sometimes even goes into sexual assault on lesbians. This is not okay, no matter who is being turned down. Trans people don't get special treatment. And so I'm asking right now, where is the Me Too movement on all of this? See, the Me Too movement made headways by bringing to light sexual assault that women face. But they seemingly don't care when the victims of this are lesbians and the perpetrators are trans people. Right now we're seeing the hashtag Ciswiththet trending on Twitter, after an article in the BBC was published, and it's titled, "We're Being Pressured into Sex by Some Trans Women." So this article highlighted several stories about lesbian women coerced, shamed, and downright forced to have sex with trans women. Stories like this one. I felt very bad for hating every moment. Another lesbian, 26-year-old Chloe, said she felt pressured. She ended up having penetrative sex with a trans woman at university, repeatedly explaining she was not interested. They lived near each other in the halls of residence. Chloe had been drinking alcohol and does not think she could have given proper consent. I felt bad for hating every moment because the idea is we are attracted to gender rather than sex. And it did not feel that. And I felt bad for feeling like that. Ashamed and embarrassed, she decided not to tell anyone. The language at the time was very much trans women are women. They are always women. Lesbians should date them. And I was like, that's the reason I rejected this person. Does that make me bad? Am I going to be allowed in the LGBT community anymore? Am I going to face repercussions for that instead? So I didn't actually tell anyone. Women are hiding when this happens because they don't feel like they're going to get the support that they deserve if they come up with these sexual assaults because the perpetrator is a trans woman. Another story goes on to say, they threatened to out me as a TERF and risk my job if I refused to sleep with them, she wrote. I was too young to argue and had been brainwashed by queer theory, so a woman, even if every fiber of my being was screaming throughout, so I agreed to go home with them. They used physical force when I changed my mind upon seeing their penis, and they raped me. So I know I have been very clear, and I said when I was on Mars's channel a few weeks ago that I'm very much into prisons, LGBT wards of prisons. But if you use your penis to rape a woman, you deserve to go in the men's prison. I could care less what happens to you. I could. This is one of the worst things that you can do in the world. And the fact that this person is trans does not change that. Does not change my way of thinking at all. So one of the last ones that I'm going to kind of highlight, and I do recommend you actually going to read this article, and it's going to be linked in the description below. But one of the last ones I want to highlight, it says, one woman reported being targeted in an online group. I was told that homosexuality doesn't exist, and I owe it to my trans sisters to unlearn my genital confusion so I can enjoy letting them penetrate me, she wrote. So now the trans community is now going to be homophobic. That is what these types of things are pointing out. That's what going after lesbians have done. And so this article really points out a fabric of our community that really needs to be shown. In a video not too long ago, I pointed out how with the Chris Chan situation, the community seems to be more worried about what pronouns you use for Chris and not the fact that he raped his mother. And this is again showing that they don't care about women. They just care about being accepted and being able to get basically whatever they want and the power that they have. This hurts all trans people. And so the trans community needs to step up. So these stories actually hurt trans people when they come to light and nobody has spoken out about them. So this article, it says, in fact, so 80 women had responded to a questionnaire, and 56% said they had been pressured into having sex with trans women. Now, even the author of this notes that this isn't a large sample size, but I will point out, when you go to school for statistics and general statistics and everything like that, a sample size of 100 is generally what they say is the base number that you can actually get a good amount of viable poll data. So it's close to that number. So 56% in a country like the UK, 100 might be enough to actually see. 80 people might be enough to see a trending pattern. And what's really interesting about this, so 46 women in the UK said that they had been coerced into having sex with trans women. To activists, this has been written off as just anecdotal evidence and it doesn't happen. But the much larger population in the US, there are 1.4 million trans people in the US. And there are only 40 trans women are murdered each year, mostly due to domestic violence and drug issues or prostitution issues and stuff like that. And this is now seen as an epidemic. So 46 women in the UK come out and it's anecdotal, but 40 women in the US is an epidemic. Think about that. So as a fellow trans YouTuber, Rose of Dawn pointed out as she was interviewed for this article, this isn't anything new. She put out a video 2 years ago that was titled, "Is Not Dating Trans People Transphobic?" And in it, she stated,
the idea that if you want to accept trans people, you need to also sleep with us is something which is incredibly predatory, I must say. Now, it should be noted that to claim this as a part of acceptance pushes things a little bit far. When you're wanting to accept gay people, that generally doesn't really intrude in your personal life all that much. You're not being asked to sleep with them, you're just being asked to acknowledge that they exist. Something like the cotton ceiling, however, this idea that, well, because people aren't being attracted to trans people, if you're a real advocate, you would be there with us in bed, adds an extra level of acceptance, which is just far and beyond anything which anyone could reasonably accept.
So I definitely advocate watching the rest of this video because she explains so many more examples and everything like that. And she even talks, as you see, she talks about Rachel McKinnon, who, again, this was back in 2009, who is now known as Veronica Ivy. She said, I like dick. Girl with dick says, hey, want to date? Oh, no, I only like dick on guys. Guy responds to date Ed. Sup, girl? Guy has a vagina. Oh, sorry, I only like guys with dicks. Both cases, trans people are left in the cold. Genital preferences are transphobic. No. Genital preferences define sexuality. And this is what my friend Ariel Scarcella has been saying for a long time, and has been vilified for a long time and pointing this stuff out in these videos. This is from a video she made 6 months ago.
Ariel, what are you talking about? Lesbians are not oppressed at all. Oppressed from LGBT activists saying that the term lesbian is old-fashioned and problematic, to those same people saying that lesbians should like dicks, since some trans women date women and some trans women have dicks.
But then you have people like Owen Jones who don't seem to realize what this hashtag is even about. He wrote, trans people are being monstered exactly as gay and bisexual people always were, as would-be sexual predators, recruiters of children, defiers of biological reality, sufferers of mental conditions, creepy fetishes, and so on. Stand by our trans siblings. Ciswiththet. Now, this would be fine if that's what it was actually being saying. And this whole cis with the T is starting to build, and you can see a lot of people, they don't really understand where this came from, where this hashtag came from. So they need to do a little bit more research, because basically what they are advocating for is, in my opinion, sexual assault. This should be about calling out the incel culture that has seemed to run rampant recently in society and is coming into the trans community, shaming people for not wanting to sleep with you. See, the trans community as a whole needs to step up against this, or we will lose all the acceptance we have gained. Again, when this stuff pops up and it shows that no trans people have come out, and they seem to be more worried about the pronouns you use to describe a perpetrator instead of highlighting the victims themselves or shaming the victims, as we are seeing in this case, that becomes a big issue, and general society isn't going to take kindly to these issues. This begs to hurt trans people in the long run, and that's why we are out here, and we need to be out here. That's why I'm out here. That's why we need to be out here standing against this notion. That's why we need to stand with lesbians. We haven't seen it as much with gay men, but again, we live in a patriarchal society. So, but I have seen it before with gay men, where trans people try to shame gay men into having sex with them, even though they have a vagina. Gay men don't like vagina, and that's not a fetish. That is sexuality. But I'll say honestly that no trans friends of mine, we don't have issues getting dates. Do we get turned down? Yes. Because there are always going to be people that do not find you attractive. That's a part of life. You know, we all have our preferences, no matter what it is. And you can expand those preferences to any group of people that you might not find attractive. Some people don't find a lot of things about certain groups of people attractive. Doesn't mean that they hate them. It just means that that's not their preference when it comes to dating. And that is okay. And we should think that's okay. Search for people who are open and accepting and that like you for you. It generally works out for me. But I think that's the attitude issue. If you have an attitude that everybody is against you and you have a chip on your shoulder, of course you're not going to find any dates. Stop trying to shame people into sleeping with you. It's very rapey and does sometimes turn into rape. And we need to not victim blame these people. But anyways, make sure you leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button. Go follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And I will see you next time.